some of the pressure on them, bringing the family member to the daycare. They have socialization, they make new friends. We try to keep them active. They go out on field trips, lunch outs, and it relieves a lot of pressure on the caregiver. That way they're in a safe environment. If they need their medication monitored, you know, we have nurses on staff that can help with that. Also help with any of their health conditions that they need.
Great advice.
Yeah.
What other advice would we have?
I was going to say, I made the mistake of, you know, not wanting to pay a few dollars more. So rather than going to one of the many agencies that come into your home and help, when I really had to, I would bring someone in, but it was someone that wasn't through the agencies. And, you know, you'd get halfway where you're going and find out that they never showed up or something. There are wonderful agencies that can help you in your home, you know, through the Area on Aging has lists of them. There's directories out there. You know, take the time to find out what is out there.
And at the end of this program, you're going to find out the contact information for ValleyCare, for the Area Agency on Aging and all the support services available there, and also the contact information for the Alzheimer's Association. Now, Lois, what recommendations would you have for someone who is a caregiver working full or part-time? Any advice or wisdom?
Well, if I had the answer, that would be wonderful. I think it depends on the situation. Hopefully, anyone in the family they'll all pull together and everyone will pitch in. I know that doesn't always happen, and it does usually fall on the females, whether they be a daughter or daughter-in-law. I just wanted to mention here, there is a brand new book out, which I'm halfway through it. It really is interesting. I know that, Sarah, you had mentioned the statistic on women as caregivers. It's Maria Shriver's new book. And it talks about folks who are caregivers for Alzheimer's, but it really implies just about any type of caregiving. And it gives the statistics about females as caregivers. It talks about workplace problems, issues that this country's kind of behind in. We certainly have tax credits and whatnot for child care, but because our nation is getting older, we haven't gotten there yet for elder care. So that's just one book you might want to look for. It's called, I forget the name of it right now, A Women's Impact on Caregiving or something similar to that, but it's Maria Shriver's new book. The other suggestion I would give caregivers would be to look at if they are a member of a church, because a lot of churches have volunteers who will come into the house as a companion. Also, there are interfaith groups. I know that we have some wonderful interfaith groups here in the southwestern Pennsylvania region. There are sometimes transportation that's available. So it's just really important that you go out and really do your homework and try to find any kind of you know, respite so that you have some time for yourself.
And you need to do it early. You know, when these problems first start and they're small, you know, when it becomes bad, you're in such a state mentally that, you know, your whole life has changed. Your parent's life or spouse's life has changed. You don't have time to do research. Or do you have the place in mind to do it? Study it beforehand.
Right. I always say it's good to have a plan you never have to use.
Exactly.
Rather
Wonderful
than to be in a crisis and have to have a plan tomorrow. So it would be better to go and check out.
And things that you have to think about that, you know, aren't easy to deal with, but you know, it was one thing we did do right. When my mother first became ill, my father had already passed away. So we went and had the powers of attorney done. Had second names put on checking accounts and bank accounts so that when we needed them, that was all in place. You know, the caregiving group that I work with, that's one of the problems. Well, nobody did that, and now Mom has dementia or Alzheimer's, and we don't have access to the money, and you know, she is hesitant to write a check, so that's, you have to plan in advance.
And having that very important conversation with your loved one and other family members, friends, and even neighbors early on is a wonderful proactive approach, whether it's emergency preparedness or caring for elder loved ones, talking in advance.
Well, and one of the things I
Absolutely.
personally ran into was getting my brothers to, you know, even though she had been diagnosed and that, she's not that bad. She's not that bad. And, you know, it's hard to accept, but you have to. You know, even when she was in assisted living, it was time to move her to the next step. And, you know, I finally, because I did have the power of attorney, I made the decision and everyone was angry, but it was what needed to be done. So, you know, even if you're not the primary caregiver, you have to stop and think, okay, how bad is this really, and what needs to be done in everyone's best interest? Because we all strive to keep our families at home, and there comes a point that it's not in their best interest or the caregivers. That's a fine line to cross.
It can be very challenging. One of the goals of the Area Agency on Aging is to help elders age in place as long as they are wanting and able to remain in their homes. And there's a wealth of supports, as you've heard us touch on just a few of them here today, a wealth of supports available to help keep their loved ones in the home as long as possible and to support caregivers such as Debbie on her journey. One thing I did want to mention, I found hearing from other caregivers in the community that having the conversation with their employers early on is also a very proactive approach. Perhaps there can be some flexibility in a schedule or job modification, task modification to better accommodate a role as a caregiver. However, and as you found, you know, maybe they'll support you for the first 2 weeks, but caring is ongoing. How long were you a caregiver?
7 years.
7 years.
You know, it varied from a very moderate level to the place that it was time to place Mom.
And it's often difficult to have
But you know
an
what?
employer.
It's as trying as it is during it, I look back at it now and just cherish every one of those hours. So, you know, even though the folks that are doing it right now, they are so stressed, they're going to look back at that time and say, my God, I got to spend that quality time. So there is a light at the end of the rainbow.
If when you were a caregiver initially, starting out, what was the biggest challenge that you had?
Finances.
How did you overcome that challenge?
We actually had to sit down and have the conversation. When I was working, I had a very lucrative income, was able to provide for my mother's household needs as well as keep my own budget. And, you know, I had to sit my brothers down and say, I've lost all income because of this. I need some help with this. They weren't all happy about it. Some of them absolutely refused. But, you know, fortunately, as a family, we got it pulled together so that Mom could live very comfortably until it was time for her to move in. Because my mother's generation, they didn't save. They didn't have enough money to put away. When my father died, she got, I think it was $40,000, and she had lived on that for 10 years and still had $39,000 of it. But today's economy and what that is, that doesn't last very long. So you need to think when you have a family member, you know, the best thing they've ever invented is this long-term insurance, because now there is help, because every family has the chance of having this happen to them. I think I read the other day that it's 1 in 8 families from the baby boom generation will have somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia in it.
My goodness.
Wow.
And Wanda, among the caregivers that you've met at ValleyCare, what is the greatest challenge they experience initially, and how are they able to overcome that challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is trying to accept and bringing that person to adult daycare, not feeling guilty, okay? And the main thing we try to tell them is you need to take care of yourself. If you do not take care of yourself and something happens to you, who's going to take care of your loved one?
Great point, and I think that's what you saw, Debbie, when you had to go into the hospital. Who, may I ask, who cared for Mom?
One of my brothers.
They did step up.
They did step up to the plate. You know, everybody did what they thought was right. You know, but I saw it in my own family. It can pull families apart.
Definitely.
You know,
Yes.
that one's not talking to the other, but in everyone's mind, they're doing the best they can do. But when you're in the middle of that situation, that's hard to see.
Absolutely.
And if you're not living with that person,
Yes.
you know, and you have other family members, sometimes they just cannot believe, they don't believe what's going on. You know?
I think it was a great point that you made, Wanda, about the decision for adult day program. That doesn't seem to a lot of us like it's a very big decision, but it's a huge decision because you're actually saying to yourself, this person cannot stay home by themselves
Correct.
anymore. They
Yes.
need some extra help. And so I think that realization and acceptance that it's at the point is an enormous step that families make.
But you know what? For the caregivers, they have to do that
They
because
do, yes.
I know in my own situation, I lost all control of my own life. You know, I lost contact with my friends. There was no social life. And, you know, you have to find a balance where there's still, you have some life, the family are getting what they need, but it's hard.
That's a
Yeah.
great point. And in our next episode, we are going to talk specifically about caring for the caregiver and share a number of tips and techniques that can benefit not only people in Debbie's situation, but perhaps you in your situation as well. For those who might be interested in more information on ValleyCare, what do they need to do to contact you?
They can visit us at www.valleycareassociation.org, or they can call 412-749-5257 to connect with ValleyCare.
And for those who would like more information on the Alzheimer's Association, how do they reach out to you?
The Alzheimer's Association has a 24-hour day helpline. The number is 1-800-272-3900, and that's 24 hours a day, every day of the year. You don't have to go through a menu. Someone will be there to answer your call or your concern. We also have a website. The national website is www.alz.org, and you can access all kinds of support, caregiver support programs, information, and you can even get onto the Greater Pennsylvania Chapter website from there. And it will have support group listings and educational programs locally.
Thank you. And for more information on Allegheny County's Area Agency on Aging and all of the services that they offer the community, you would contact Senior Line, and that phone number is 412-350-5460. The Family Caregiver Support Program offers reimbursement, financial reimbursement for caregiver out-of-pocket expenses such as incontinence supplies, Insure, over-the-counter medications, wound care, and more, and also for reimbursement for services such as the adult day services mentioned here, as well as other forms of respite care, personal emergency response devices, you know, the little call buttons, and many, many more. For more information on that monthly reimbursement program, you would contact Senior Line. It is $200 a month reimbursement, and there's also access to the number of support groups in the community, such as with the Alzheimer's Association. Also, you would have the benefit of a care manager to serve as a compass as you navigate the complicated system of all the aging services here in Allegheny County. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation on caregivers and sharing wonderful tips and techniques on how our caregivers out there can best care for themselves. Remember, if we cannot care for ourselves, we will not be able to care for our loved ones. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.